Testimony from today's January 6th hearing was nothing but jaw-dropping. Cassidy Hutchinson, a former top advisor to President Trump's chief of staff, Mark Meadows, revealing stunning new details about what happened that violent and deadly day on January 6th. We have team coverage with our Alex Prochet up there on Capitol Hill, along with our contributors, Elizabeth Wydra, former Virginia Congresswoman Barbara Comstock, former North Dakota Senator Heidi Heitkamp, and, of course, our political director, Rick Klein. Alex, let's start with you. You're there on the Hill. What a hearing. Tell me what stood out to you, and what's the response been to Cassidy Hutchinson since this wrapped up today?
Well, Kira, you've been up here in these rotundas. You know how loud and boisterous they can get. I can tell you during that nearly 2 hours of testimony, the vast majority, the only thing that you heard here was that actual programming, her testimony, because so many people were glued and watching. One of the things, I had a colleague who passed by and as this was wrapping and said, well, that was crazy. But I mean, I think going into this, we knew that Cassidy Hutchinson was going to be used to connect the dots. Few people have as much insight as she did to the Trump White House, also his schedule, who might be talking with the former president, and the actions of his chief of staff. And so we heard Cassidy Hutchinson talk about the knowledge of possible violence in the days leading up to January 6th. We heard her testify to the insurrection, the president's speech in the metal detectors, and the president wanting to have these metal detectors removed so they could fill in the crowd. We heard about her testimony about his insistence on going to the Capitol that day, and then also that interaction, that altercation with a member of his security detail that played out like something out of a movie. And then something else that really was drilled down on here, that conversation in the White House between Mark Meadows and Pat Cipollone about Mike Pence getting what he deserved. The president believed that he was getting what he deserved and didn't believe that he needed to say anything further to those protesters. Really riveting testimony here. And I think the last thing that stood out to me, Kira, and this is something to pay attention to going forward, these closing remarks by Vice Chair Liz Cheney saying they think they have evidence of witness tampering and obstruction of justice. That is something that I think is going to come up again in July.
Oh, lots going to come up, I think. Elizabeth, Cassidy testified that she was scared and nervous on the days leading up to the Capitol attack. She had overheard phone calls and conversations that truly rattled her to the core. What stood out to you?
I think that was a really key piece of information that, frankly, the testimony today was very damning for obviously President Trump, but also Mark Meadows, that they knew that leading up to January 6th, it could be violent. In Mark Meadows' words to Cassidy Hutchinson, it could get real bad. The morning of, she gave this very compelling narrative of the day where they knew that people were there, they were armed, that Trump said, take away the metal detectors, let them in. Even he said he didn't care if they had weapons. They're not here to hurt me, and that they could march to the Capitol from there. He knew that it was unsafe for him to go to the Capitol if this violence was taking place. And not only did he not try to stop it, he tried to go there by grabbing the steering wheel and then lunging at his security detail's neck. And then again, when he's back in the Oval Office in the West Wing and hears that they're chanting, "Hang Mike Pence," not only did he not try to step in to stop the violence, he said that maybe Mike Pence is getting what he deserves. So this is very damning evidence against President Trump and Mark Meadows. And, I'm sure that the Department of Justice is paying very close attention to this. And, I think the question is going to be, what's the accountability now?
Barbara, are you surprised by how much Cassidy knew?
No, not at all, because a staffer who is there around you, I often call my past staff and say, do you remember this person or do you remember that? Because they remember better than the principal does. So it makes total sense to me. And so this was a devastating, and smoking guns just every which way, literally smoking guns, when the president was Donald Trump was trying to lead an armed insurrection to the Capitol. And that started before that because they knew this mob was coming in and could be dangerous. And then he knew they were armed when he directed them to go to the Capitol. And then He wanted to go up because he knew he was in no danger. These people didn't want to harm him. They wanted to hang Mike Pence. They wanted to harm Democrats or Republicans. I mean, he also attacked Liz Cheney in this speech. They've ignored that. And that was alarming enough that her father called her that morning to tell her he's attacking you. So I think this is devastating. Like Mick Mulvaney said, I think it is honest. I think you're going to see Republicans, some now saying, oh, gee, I don't really remember that. They'll do the I don't recall stuff. But this is, Pat Cipollone knows this happened. Mark Meadows knows. And the best you're going to get from some of these guys is well, I don't really remember that well. I was really busy. I was worried about all these other things. They know this happened, and it was willful looking the other way, trying to ignore what this petulant child that they were working for, who, I mean, of all people, Kevin McCarthy is calling Cassidy that day and yelling at her for Donald Trump saying he's sending people down to the Capitol, and is telling a 25-year-old, you've got to stop him. Where were the adults in the room? She stopped it, and God bless Cassidy Hutchinson and Liz Cheney. These are the women we need to deal with the boys, the Trump eunuchs who couldn't stand up and do anything. They're a disgrace, and they need to be put under oath in a grand jury and get at this. And I think there's going to be some serious criminal problems.
Well, I can't wait to see what job offers Cassidy Hutchinson gets, that's for sure. Heidi, let me take this to you, because this is something that we didn't know. President Trump's Secret Service agent, Bob Engel, who was driving the beast, he's the one that Trump got into with him, and Trump said to him, according to Cassidy Hutchinson, you take me to the Capitol. And he said, no, sir, I'm not going to take you there. And I'm the effing president. I can do whatever I want. You're going to take me there. And they got into this tussle right here in the Beast. You can see arms waving. And according to Cassidy Hutchinson, the president lunged at him, physically assaulting him, according to her. I mean, that is just unprecedented. When have you ever heard something like this before? I mean, it just really goes to show the mindset of Trump and how far he was going to go to push the big lie.
Yeah, I think what you're really hearing is Trump devolving. I mean, if he ever had the ability to kind of to retain decorum, we know now it was getting worse and worse as time went on. But I always say, when people tell you who they are, believe them. I mean, he told us he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and he would still have followers. These were his people, which incidentally, the next day they said they were Antifa. But the day before he said, they're not going to hurt me, they're my people. He wanted to lead them. That was the image that he wanted, was the leader. And when he was told no, he did what he did, and I have no doubt or any reason not to believe her. Now, it's going to be very hard to get the Secret Service to come forward, but I think the real question here is...
But they could, though, right, Heidi?
Yeah,
they could.
Well,
they could come forward.
Yeah, but this is a group of people, the it's not in the law, but it is our tradition. And how do we ever get a president to believe that they can be themselves around us if later on we go to a television station and talk about what happened in those private moments? So I doubt that you're going to see the Secret Service stepping up. But I will tell you this. The question that I have is the courage of a 25-year-old young woman with a life ahead of her, is her courage that she showed today, is it contagious? Can we expect other Republicans to step up and say, in the rearview mirror of history, I want to be on the right side of this? And I think you saw a 25-year-old with incredible poise and no real reason to tell us anything but the truth. And so hooray to her, and, let's hope that it gets more people to step up and do the right thing.
We got less than 45 seconds, Rick. I'm going to give the final thought to you. Impact of Cassidy Hutchinson.
It's a historic day. We learned things we never did before about the narrative, and I think it puts a real burden on those who, as Heidi Heitkamp just said, haven't come forward to testify. What's the reasoning for that? And for people around her, they've got ample opportunity to try to rebut what we heard today. Without that, and with only Trump's angry rants on Truth Social to go off of, what her word is the word. And going unchallenged, I think, speaks volumes as well for the Republican Party. He still is the leader of the Republican Party, and as this committee has made clear, the threats did not end on January 6th. They are real and relevant, continuing today, and I think that is what is going to put a lot of burden on others to come forward and land one way or the other, as we heard today from Cassidy Hutchinson.
Thank you all, and thank you all for joining us. I'm Kira Phillips. If you missed today's unbelievable hearing, we will rerun it in full later tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern, and again right now.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.